What up, people? Uh, Back with Saturn Days Part 3, and this will be, I would say, the final part of this series for now. Um, I'm not going to say it's a closed series, I'm going to say this is an open series because later down the line I may want to explore other Japanese titles and, you know, or not just Japanese, but other Sega Saturn titles. But in particular, the original plan was to discover four fighting games for the Sega Saturn: two 3D fighters and two 2D fighters. And X-Men vs. Street Fighter is the last of the four um, fighters, the second 2D fighter for the Saturn, because Sega Saturn, as someone know, was a bit of a 2D powerhouse. It was really good at rendering to 2D. However, um, basically for 3D titles, the Saturn was relatively hard to program for, as said by certain uh, uh, game creators who made content for the Sega Saturn. So they did the best they could with the infrastructure they got. Um, so I I said this in my Vampire Hunter video. I am not a huge Capcom guy. I've played the Marvel vs. Capcom series 1, 2, and 3. Um, and aside from that, I've occasionally played Street Fighter. I'm not a huge fan of the series, even though I have quite a few Street Fighter games, which I may cover one day, I may not. Um, and um, in getting titles for the Saturn, I noticed that there were quite a few Capcom games that um, are ridiculously overpriced in the US, in terms of like resellers or retailers, such as like the niche game shops that have these titles. And like um I've only really gotten lucky on deals in terms of Genesis games, Super Nintendo games, and PlayStation 2 games. um and you know I, I don't strike gold with certain systems, and the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast are two systems I just really haven't hit gold with. And honestly, the Sega Dreamcast was something I didn't imagine I would actually be collecting for again. Um, just mainly because I didn't think I was going to get another Dreamcast ever again. Um, but that is beside the point. I want to talk to you about this fantastic system, this fantastic 332-bit processor having system known as the Sega Saturn. Um, I really have to say that if if I could speak Japanese, I would buy a whole lot more of the Japanese release titles, because it's just pure greatness. And I mean, I really can't objectively say, you know, out of the three, out of the main three of the mid '90s, during that bit battle, uh, and by the main three I'm talking about the Sega Saturn, the Sony PlayStation, and the Nintendo 64. I cannot objectively say what I think or what is the best system, because I don't have an accurate basis of comparison. I grew up with the Sony PlayStation. Um, I had friends who had the Nintendo 64, and I played it seldomly. Um, there are very good standout titles on Nintendo systems, and I will give them that. They know how to make quality content. Um, so yeah, that's just really what I have to say about that. And in terms of the Dreamcast, I did not have the Dreamcast long enough as a kid, and I didn't have that many games for the Dreamcast to accurately compare. And it's kind of it's kind of sucky that the Dreamcast, why I say Dreamcast, the Saturn had a very limited lifespan in the United States, so we didn't get all the goodness of the Sega Saturn um, in America, and there were so many games, and when you look into like Japanese titles, um, there are so many like text-based games that are just hard to import, but there are so many like games that you can import. And while building up my Dreamcast library, which I still consider a work in progress, while building that library, I ended up getting a lot of Capcom games. And you know honestly, uh, when it comes down to it, you have to be open to these games. And if you enjoy these Capcom fighters, if you enjoy the Marvel vs. Capcom series, um, and you want to play an older title, you want to play what happened before this, I highly recommend getting this game. And it's at this point, I'm ending the video. Um, Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.
Sega Saturn.